Jamie and welcome back to my channel. Today is the second episode of TV Talk, so we're going to discuss all things TV related, like big TV things that happened in February of 2022. And then I'll also look at all the TV shows I watched in February with one that I missed from January as well. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. I will include like the chapters of this video in the description, along with all of the links and references that I will use. So yeah, if you're not interested in one topic, you just use the things in the description to skip through it. So the first big TV thing that happened that I can recall was the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power trailer coming out. It came out at the Super Bowl, the halftime thing. I don't really know 100%. I'm not that into the Super Bowl at all. So yeah, it was released in that. And the show itself is set to be released in September of this year. So yeah, the trailer came out and there was lots of like mixed reviews. The biggest complaints I saw was being called like cheap, and also the CGI not looking great, which I'm definitely on board with the CGI not looking quite as good. I do feel like they have, or at least the stills and the images and the clips that they've put out at the moment do seem a bit too CGI heavy for my liking. But again, the show hasn't been released, so I can't judge it completely. But yeah, I definitely understand that criticism. However, despite like the criticisms, and actually probably the criticisms helped this, but it actually gained 257 million views in the first 24 hours of the trailer being released, which is insane. It like beat all the Marvel trailer releases and stuff like that, just ridiculous numbers. So yeah, that's just incredible. And yeah, so obviously there was these criticisms about it being cheap, too much CGI, not really going towards like the lore of the Lord of the Rings, which I think all of those criticisms are valid. But yeah, there are some criticisms I don't agree with. I did see one tweet, which I can't find for the life of me at the moment. But the tweet was basically saying that it's insane how much like controversy this trailer has released from like all sides. So like people who are left-leaning politically hate it because it is an Amazon show. We've got people on the right hating it for like it's included diversity, which obviously people on the right aren't going to like, and it's also angered like film nerds because it's not accurate to the movies. Which we'll get onto that in a second. First of all, I just want to say that if your criticism of the show revolves around misogyny, racism, all of that, your opinion is not valid to me. I just think opinions based on that sort of thing just should not be, just be written off. If you're going to complain about something, like have a valid complaint. This is something that we are seeing a lot. Like if they just include women, or the thing that happens the most, if including black people or people of colour, is immediately written off as woke and pandering to like leftist like ideologies. I don't know, but like they're just people. It's just ridiculous. Like people saying that black people shouldn't be in Lord of the Rings, and it's like because it's not accurate, and it's like, no, this is a fantasy, right? Like none of it is accurate. It's not realistic. So yeah, my main criticism towards it is that it does seem to be relying too much on CGI, whereas the films, it definitely seemed like, obviously they use CGI, obviously, but I think they did use like natural landscapes a lot more, and more like makeup and costume instead of just relying so much on CGI. And Lord of the Rings, like I rewatched it recently, and it's just incredible how good it looks. Like it was made in like early 2000s, so like it's not that long ago, but like technology obviously has improved like vastly since then. But it's still just so incredible. All of it looks so real and natural and authentic. And yeah, this trailer, when they spent like their budget for this film was like the budget for the series over like 5 seasons is like $1 billion. Like they're putting a lot of money into this, and it just seems like faker. It doesn't feel as real. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. I know that they had this problem as well for The Hobbit, and Viggo Mortensen also commented on this and said that they did rely on too much CGI for The Hobbit, so it's a shame they haven't learned from like that criticism. Yeah, I don't know, but it was filmed in New Zealand, like the films were. Apparently, for the late series 2, it's going to be filmed in the UK, which is quite cool. I think either way, I'm still probably going to enjoy it. They are comparing it a lot to Game of Thrones, like they called it like their spiritual predecessor. So like they're obviously going to take a lot of influence from that, which I feel like could be good, but obviously the way Game of Thrones ended and just like the lackluster in like the last few series, that doesn't give me much hope. But I feel like regardless, I am going to enjoy it anyway. I just love the world that they've created. Now, the thing about this series that I think does fascinate me the most is, so obviously they bought the rights to the Lord of the Rings books and the Hobbit books and the appendices, I think. So they spent $250 million on the rights too. So they got Fellowship of the Rings, Two Towers, Return of the King and the Hobbit book, obviously vital to this. But what they didn't get, they didn't buy the rights. I don't know why they didn't buy it. Money issues, budget issues, or maybe they weren't selling it. I don't know. But they didn't buy the rights to the other books that Tolkien had published. So, or not published, just like written. And these include like the history of Middle-earth and like the content that, like all the events and stuff that happened, and more lore to do with the Second Age, which is when the series is taking place. You're right, you're making a series based on something that you do not have like the explicit rights to. So what they have to do is they have to take references from the Lord of the Rings books and the Hobbit books, and if something happens that is referenced in those books, they can use it. If it's not, then they cannot use it. So they have to like make up their own things, which I heard somebody described it as like, basically it's just fan fiction. Which is just insane to me. Like, if you're going to be creating a series around, you know, the stories that we haven't heard or haven't seen on film or TV, then why not buy the rights to them? It's just insane to me. I haven't seen why they haven't bought the rights, but yeah, it's just baffling to me. I'm glad they didn't just remake the series or The Hobbit. I'm glad they didn't do that. But yeah, that's just ridiculous. But yeah, I also think it's interesting that they have scheduled 5 series. Like, they're going to start from the second series before the first series has come out as well, which I know for the kind of like the vastness of this kind of type of content, they're going to need a lot of time to make it. So I guess that kind of makes sense, but like, at least see the reception to it before investing so much money into it. But I guess Bezos has so much money to throw away, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's kind of, I just find, this whole discussion around Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power just so interesting, because it's got so many criticisms from all sides. I personally am probably going to watch it. I think I'm going to enjoy it. It doesn't look bad. I just think, it's just the CGI looks a bit too much for me, but maybe once we're immersed into the world a bit more, it might seem a bit better. But yeah, there were just elements of it that just seemed fake, and like, this is obvious that they've used CGI, whereas with the Lord of the Rings movies, as I said, it just felt so authentic. And I will put a video in the description about kind of all this horrible reception to it, about like them including diverse characters, when like the Lord of the Rings films it was pretty much an all-white cast. So I think it's good that they've introduced diversity. Our next piece of TV news, or rather just like media-related news, but I'm including it in this, is about the Tinder Swindler. Because again, I find this really fascinating. So it's not going to talk so much about the actual documentary, but a bit of background if you don't know. It's a documentary that was released on Netflix. And it's about a man who conned a bunch of women who he met on dating apps out of over $10 million. Like, that's how much they estimate he stole. And he's a convicted criminal. Like, he was convicted of these crimes. Yeah, he's obviously found guilty. He was convicted to 2 years in prison in Finland, because that's where some of the women he scammed were from. And he was also convicted to 15 months in prison in Israel, which is where he is from. And currently he's still wanted in several countries for fraud, for fraud. And that includes Norway, Sweden and the UK. So he's a wanted criminal. Just bear that in mind. So the aftermath of this documentary was that he was banned from dating apps, so like Tinder, Match.com, Plenty of Fish and OkCupid. And he had his Instagram account deleted, all that jazz. But because the internet is insane, he's just famous now, which is just ridiculous. He's signed with a Hollywood agent, which is insane. What? And he apparently wants his own dating show where women apparently are going to compete for his love. Which, what? Why would people want to date this man who is convicted of scamming his girlfriends out of so much money? And he also has suggested he wanted to create a podcast where he shares his dating do's and don'ts, which I've got dating advice for you. Don't scam women out of tons of money. There you go, there's number 1. Just insane to me. And this, right, okay, I can always understand Hollywood agents going after money. I hate it, but it's their job. This is what I don't get. People are paying him $200 for cameo videos and also $2,000 for business videos that are also on Cameo. what business advice do you want from him? He gained most of his money from scamming people, which I guess is also, a lot of businessmen do that as well. Speaking of scamming people, he's also launched an NFT collection and also merch that contain like images and quotes from this documentary. Like, we need to stop making like horrible people so famous. Like, this was a documentary about his crimes and he's come out of this famous. Just madness. And he's also said that he's in talks with people, I think he might have said Netflix, I can't quite remember, of making a film of this whole event, which means that Netflix would have to pay him money, or whatever company decides they want to make a film out of it would have to pay him money to gain the rights to this story. Later in the video, I'm going to talk about how I really enjoyed a show called Inventing Anna, and that is also about a scam artist, and they paid her over $300,000 to gain the rights to that story. So if we're guessing like similar amounts of fame for these two people, they're going to be paying him like $300,000. He doesn't need that money. He doesn't deserve that money. He is a wanted criminal, and he is still a criminal. He's convicted. Yeah, it's just insanity. I just don't understand it. Okay, in more positive news, our very favourite Ghosts BBC TV show has won an award. So it won the Best Returning TV Sitcom for the British Comedy Guide. Just brilliant news, very, very well deserved. All the cast and crew were very much appreciative, very, very proud of their work. And yeah, they 100% deserve it. So the next bits of news are new TV show announcements that I think you guys will like, and I think I'm going to really enjoy. So the first one is The Witchfinder, which is a BBC 2 show. So the trailer was released a few days ago, and it stars Tim Key and Daisy May Cooper. They're the only cast members announced, and by the looks of the trailer, it is going to just mainly be those two with some minor characters introduced as well. But yeah, it's mainly going to be those two. So Tim Key plays the Witchfinder, and Daisy May Cooper plays a suspected witch. It seems very, very funny, and I think those two, just from the trailer, they just seem to like work with each other very, very well. And very, very dry humour, and I think it's going to be fantastic. And it's described as kind of like a road trip style, taking place in the 1600s, I think. But yeah, it seems very, very fun, and I think I'm going to very much enjoy it. The release date is the 8th of March, and it'll be on BBC Two and iPlayer. And also one thing about this show as well is already there are people complaining about like the representation of witches in Britain, in like the witch trials, which it hasn't even been released yet. You don't even know if it's going to be accurate or not. I don't know what it is about the witch trials, but it is the most like contested piece of like just not trivia, but like knowledge that I've ever seen. Like, I made a comment in one video talking about how Mary was burnt at the stake for being a witch, which is like I guess pretty much what we're told in the show. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be as accurate as that, I think, or as simple as that. I think they are going to go into more like detail with that, but like, that is what we're presented with. So I wasn't just making stuff up, and I got so many comments about people saying that like the witches weren't burned on like at the stake, and it's like, but I didn't say that. It was just what the show is saying. And I find it constantly, I don't know, it's just wild. So I feel like we're going to get a lot more of that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a TV show, guys. That's all it, yeah. It's just funny to me. And yeah, it's a sitcom. It's not going to be like historically accurate. So I feel like if you want it to be historically accurate, then probably not the show for you. Again, it might be very, very accurate. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be really good. And I think if you like the type of stuff that I like, which if you watch my channel, then I'm sure you do, then I think we'll like this. The next TV show that I think we'll like is Here We Go. And it's based on the pilot called Pandemonium that was released in 2020, and it got really, really good reviews. It stars some excellent people. So we've got Alison Steadman from like a bunch of shows, including like Gavin and Stacey, Catherine Parkinson, IT Crowd, Taskmaster, and of course Jim Howick, who from like Sex Education, from Ghosts, Horrible Histories. Yeah, just a fantastic cast. And yeah, I think it's going to be really good. I haven't found a release date for it. It might be released like while I'm editing this video, so I'll put it on the screen if it has been released. And yeah, so it's going to be BBC, but I don't think it's going to be for a while until it's released because, yeah, they've only just announced it's being made. So it's not even like a trailer or anything. Okay, so now we are going to go into what I watched in February. So actually, first thing first, I missed one from January, and that is Screw, which is Channel 4 dark comedy drama. It takes place in a prison. It's very, very good. I've seen kind of mixed reviews, but I personally really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was thrilling, like the whole way through, and like funny as well. So it stars Jamie Lee O'Donnell. She played Michelle in Derry Girls. That was what initially drew me to it, because I think she's just fantastic, and I absolutely loved her in Derry Girls, and she's absolutely fantastic in this as well. It was nice to see her in a slightly more serious role. Obviously it's still comedic, so it's not completely serious, but yeah, I thought she was fantastic. The show follows Rose Gill, who's played by Jamie Lee O'Donnell, and she starts working at a male prison, so she's obviously very inexperienced, and she's kind of thrown into it. There are other things that you learn throughout the show as well, but it deals with a lot of really important issues, such as how kind of like the problems of the prison system in the UK, and also dealing with things like what to do with like trans inmates and inmates with like mental health issues and religion, with losing people like outside of prisons, like prisoners dealing with grief and all that kind of thing. It's just, yeah, it's very, very, it's funny, but it's also so emotional at the same time as well. But yeah, I highly recommend. Yeah, very, very good. So now on to the shows I watched in February. This will be a mix of some old shows and also that I've discovered in February for the first time, and also shows that were released in February for the first time. So the first one is The Other One, which is a BBC comedy, and it stars Ellie White, who you may know from Stath Lets Flats, and Lauren Socker. I don't know if that's pronounced right, sorry. She's from Misfits. Let's say that she's been in Misfits. And yeah, so they play half-sisters, both called Catherine Walcott, and they only find out about each other when their father dies unexpectedly. And yeah, so it's so he basically, his main family was with Kathy, which is Ellie White's character, and he was having an affair with Kat's mother. And yeah, they were born within like a month of each other. It's just insane. And they've obviously both got the same name, but they're like completely different people. And yeah, it's just very funny. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's 2 series of it, and I really hope there's a series 3. It's just fantastic. I just enjoyed every second of it. The next show I watched was called Back to Life, which is, again, it's another BBC comedy, dark comedy series. And again, it's one that was released a while ago that I've only just discovered. So it stars Daisy Haggard as Miri Mattison, who returns to like a hometown. It's a very, very small like seaside town after serving 18 years in prison. So she went into prison when she was 18, and yeah, so half of her life she spent in prison. The show explores like the struggles of, returning to life after prison, and kind of dealing with the consequences and all the kind of assumptions people make about you. And it also looks at Miri, starting relationships again for the first time. And it also looks at her discovering and exploring like what actually happened that made her get sent to prison. I'm not going to reveal too much, because you go into it not really knowing exactly what happens, and you learn more as you go along. And yeah, very, very good. And yeah, I just love like the main character, like even though like she's so flawed in like so many different ways, I just really love her. I really felt sorry for her, and again, like as the series went on, I felt more and more sorry for her. Like she's blamed for like the misfortune of the town, even when it had like absolutely nothing to do with her. People use her as like a scapegoat for like things that they don't like. It's just, yeah, you really sympathise with this main character, and like at the start of the show you kind of shouldn't, but yeah, I don't know, it's very, very good. Strongly recommend. So the next show I watched is The Split, which is again another BBC drama this time, not comedy, and it follows the lives of the Defoe family, or like the Stern family as well. So the Defoe family is a family law firm. It starts after the eldest daughter, who used to work at that law firm, moves to the rival family law firm. So yeah, drama. So yeah, I find it really interesting, because they obviously deal with like family issues, divorce in like their work life, because they're divorce lawyers, family lawyers, but then they also explore kind of like their own relationship issues, their own family troubles, and kind of started with the fact that their estranged dad, like there's 3 sisters, their estranged dad comes back into their lives for the first time in years, after like he left their mother for another woman. And yeah, it's got a fantastic cast. Nicola Walker plays the main character, Hannah Stern, and Stephen Mangan plays her husband. And there's also Matt Bainton in there for those of you who like The Idiot Six and Ghost. He plays a stand-up comedian. He's very, very good. Really like his character. So the next show is a show that actually came out in February, so it's a new one, and it is series 2 of Rose Matafeo's Starstruck. Absolutely fantastic. If you don't know, it's like a romantic comedy series. It's fantastic. Series 1 was incredible. Series 2 is like just as good. I don't know if it's better or not, I can't decide, but I love both series so much. Yeah, I love every single character in this show, like the main ones, of course. And yeah, I want more of it every single time. Like, yeah, every time both like series ends, I just crave more of it. It's so good. Again, it's kind of quite different from everything I've seen. Like, obviously we know romantic comedies, but I haven't really ever seen like just a TV romantic comedy. And yeah, I love it. It's so, so good. So if you don't know, Rose, I'll talk about series 1, so it's not spoiled for series 2. But so it follows Rose's character, Jessie, who hooks up with this guy she meets at a New Year's Eve party, and later finds out that he's like this film superstar. And it's all about like the difficulties of dating somebody famous when like you're not like rich or you don't have like any like claim to fame at all, and like all the issues with that. And yeah, it's so, so good. If you haven't watched it and you want to, I strongly recommend. It is on BBC Three, so BBC iPlayer. And yeah, I was initially going to watch it week by week because I have really been enjoying that, but I just couldn't resist. It's so, so good. Yeah, strongly recommend. Another new show that came out in February was This Is Going to Hurt. It is a BBC comedy drama based on the memoirs written by Adam Kay, who was a junior doctor for the NHS. And it stars Ben Whishaw as Adam Kay. And again, he's a junior doctor working in the NHS in the obstetrics and gynecology. So dealing with like pregnancy and, you know, all that stuff. And yeah, it's so, so good. It's emotional, but it's funny as well. So it shows how, and it's like relevant as well. So it shows like how underfunded the NHS is, just how stressful the job is, how much work there is, how much like amazing work these doctors do and the nurses do as well, and how difficult it is to have like a healthy work-life balance and like balanced relationship and work. It seems like being like working in the NHS like just takes up so much of your life and your time. Yeah, it's so, so good. And like being called in all the time because there's understaffing issues. Yeah, it was so good. And it was so like refreshing to see like all these kind of hospital dramas that you see don't really kind of look at, like, I don't know, they don't seem as realistic, but this one does. The main character is sarcastic, also like kind of mean at some point, so it's nice to have a character, like a main character who isn't this perfect person. It's very realistic. And one thing, again, I'm going to try and say this like as unspoilery as possible. If you like have trauma related to like pregnancy, like medical neglect, loss of pregnancies and stuff like that, then I would not recommend watching this show. It is very like realistic in the way it portrays things. It is quite graphic in certain areas as well. So I strongly recommend avoiding it if you're going to be triggered by that kind of stuff. It is very, very graphic. However, one of the things that just broke me was Adam Kay is the only character in the show that breaks the fourth wall and talks to the camera, and it's used a lot throughout the show. So sometimes he will break the fourth wall, talk to the camera and explain something that we might not know, so explain definitions, stuff like that, and also just to make sarcastic remarks about what is happening. And there is one moment in the second to last episode where another character breaks the fourth wall, and it is the most devastating sentence I've ever heard. It was, oh my God, it just broke my heart immediately. I think I was watching that, I was like, damn, that is like the best thing they could have done in terms of like, in like the media creation. I think obviously what happened, I don't know 100% how based this is in reality, but oh my God, it was just devastating. And it was like a genius like way of like showing something that happened. And oh my God, it was such a cliffhanger as well. Like if you're watching it like week by week, like I don't know how like you guys made it to the next week without like caving and watching it, because oh my God, it was like, it literally like made me lose my breath. Like it was just incredible like television. It was, yeah. And again, like I said, just so devastating. So another piece of TV that was released in February was Chloe. And this is another BBC drama. It's also like thrillery as well. So this follows a woman called Becky who becomes obsessed with like social media, particularly this one Instagram account by a woman called Chloe. And yeah, she just becomes obsessed with it. She is really fascinated by these like the perfect lives that these people lead. Obviously not that perfect. As we'll get into the show, you'll find out. But this isn't a spoiler because it happens, it's in like the description of the series, but Chloe dies unexpectedly and Becky becomes obsessed with trying to find out what happened to Chloe. She doesn't think it's like what happened is what she's being told. And yeah, it's so good. I've seen kind of like quite mixed reviews, but I thought it was very, very good. I think the ending could have been a bit better. I would have preferred something like a little bit more explosive in a way, but it was slow burn. It was very thrillery, I think. I loved seeing, so this Becky character, it's played by Erin Doherty, and she's just incredible in it. So she, as a way of finding out things about these people that were involved in Chloe's life, she basically like pretends she's one of them, that she's just come back from living in Japan, and you know she works her way into their lives for like buying fancy dresses and like looking like them, acting like them, talking like them to like gain their trust and get them to tell her stuff about Chloe. And it's just so good, and Erin is just so good of an actress. She's just incredible, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very good. And the last show I watched in February was Inventing Anna. And this is a Netflix show, not a BBC one this time, a Netflix show. And I did touch on it briefly when I was talking about the Tinder Swindler. But this is based on the true crime case of Anna Delphi or Anna Sorokin, whatever name you want to use. And she basically scammed a bunch of rich people and banks out of their money by pretending to be this rich German heiress when she wasn't at all. She was Russian, in fact, like she wasn't even German. It's such a fascinating story, like how somebody can like scam their way to the top. And yeah, the way they introduce this story, so it's made Shondaland, she did like Bridgerton, so it's very kind of glamorous in a way. Definitely the life that they depict is very glamorous. And you know, this Anna Delphi is very glamorous. And the way they like, before every episode or like with the intro of every episode, they always state that this story is completely true, except for the parts that we totally made up. And I think that is such an interesting way to like preface every episode, because it's something I've really, really been fascinated by, like how dramas can like talk about the lives of real people who are still alive today and like talk about their stories while also like dramatizing it, and like how ethical that is. So with this, they've put a very clear disclaimer that what they're talking about most of the time isn't going to be true. And yeah, I just find it really fascinating. Like you're watching it and you don't know what's true or not. And I think that's also the case with like the real life case of Anna Delphi. Like they didn't know what was true or not. And like I still think that people are a bit unsure about whether or not she's telling the truth about certain things. Again, I've seen very mixed reviews for this one. A lot of the time people saying that it is inaccurate, but again, I feel like they've added that disclaimer. And also people just don't like the representation of the real life people, making out one of the characters to be like a backstabber when like she was scammed out of her money. So it's like, and I'm kind of on the agreement with that. I feel like, especially the treatment of one of the characters was, I think, quite harsh. Like, yeah, she might not have been the best person, but she was still like a victim, whereas in the show, she's made out to be manipulative, which, yeah, I don't really like that part of it. But as a whole, as a show, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was done very, very well. You've got a mix between the journalist investigating the case and finding out more information, and then, like, what happened, like, them acting it out. Again, there like is something to say about whether or not it is ethical to be dramatizing, you know, this real life case, like especially because they did have to buy the rights from Anna Delphi to like make this story. So I I think they paid over $300,000 for the rights to this story, which at first I thought was like, oh my God, why are you giving a scammer money? But most of that money was used to pay back like all the fines that she had for like scamming these banks. So it's like it went back like to the banks, I guess. So it's like, you know, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, hopefully we just don't keep giving bad people money. But yeah, it is interesting to see how somebody can trick so many people. It's one thing like tricking friends and like, you know, people you meet and tricking them into thinking you're rich, but like to get banks to give you loans, like big loans, like $1 million loans, to create this business, and you're all fake and it's all fake. It's just insane. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I really like talking about like these little topics that I probably wouldn't make into a full video, and I just like telling you what I like. Like there isn't like what shows I like and what shows I've watched. Like there isn't really a kind of like TV like logging system, I don't think, because obviously if you're into film then you've got like Letterboxd, but there isn't really one for TV. So this is my way of remembering all the TV shows that I've watched. Let me know what shows you guys have watched in February, anything new that's come out that I've missed. Yeah, so thank you very, very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, then please give this video a like, it's very much appreciated. And yeah, like I said, comment down below what you've watched in February and anything you want to comment on what I've talked about today. And subscribe if you want to see more content to do with television, because I like talking about TV a lot. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!